Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Liberty Libations number 114. My name is Jake Green, joined as usual by Alden, Hardee, Zane, Placie, and Nick Ciesielski. And our special guest tonight is Jack Cameron. Jack, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. That was a very impressive opening sequence, Mr. Jake.
Well, I appreciate that. Are you drinking anything tonight, Jack?
Yes, I know this might look like a coffee mug, but it's really a Czechoslovakian brandy snifter.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, and it might look like water in there, but it's brandy, believe me.
Okay, we believe.
Is that going to be a trivia category? Czechoslovakian brandy snifters?
Could be.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Alden, what are you drinking tonight, man?
I got a couple things. I'm off my game. I missed the timing this time.
You have a new camera. You're confused. You don't know what to look.
I don't know what to do. So I got a lager. I got some rum as a little sidecar and a birthday honorary shot of tequila that I'm taking for Jake. 2 days late, but
cheers.
Cheers, man.
Zane, what are you drinking, man?
I've got Left Hand Brewing Meyer Lemon Drop Shandy.
That is a lot of words for a little beer.
A lot of words.
All right, Nick, what are you drinking, man?
I have a Latrobe lager from Four Seasons Brewing in Latrobe, and you can see it's got a famous things from Latrobe, like Mr. Rogers, Arnold Palmer, and the Banana Split.
Dadgum. A lot of famous things from there.
Yeah, I've been running around like crazy the past few days because this weekend's the LPPA.
Oh, convention.
And so the individual counties are supposed to put together baskets to be raffled off.
Mm-hmm.
So I've searched for all the breweries and stuff in the area, and I've been running in and grabbing.
There we go.
Grabbing that. So
if you're in the Pennsylvania area, can people just show up to that? Can people just grab tickets at the door? Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's a whole membership thing as far as it's past that if you're not a member already, but it's open for anyone. There's like a Saturday night might be like $30, or if you join there, $25. So,
nice. All right. Well, yeah, go check that out. Where's that at, Nick?
Cranberry Township, which is just north of Pittsburgh. It's just north of Pittsburgh, along the PA Turnpike at the Pittsburgh Marriott North.
There's no way there's a place called Cranberry Township. I'm sorry.
It sounds like one of the board spaces in Candyland. Right next to the candy cane forest.
Lots of stuff in Cranberry. The Penguins have their their training facility out in Cranberry.
All right.
Companies like PPG, Westinghouse, stuff like that all have.
Zach says intercourse PA exists, so I'll believe anything.
So does Bird and Hand PA.
Gosh. All right, y'all. Well, before we get started, head on over to peacefulsea.network. Check out what we've got going on there. You can catch this show live there, along with all our other shows, movies, documentaries, what have you, including the one you saw in the intro to this, which is Philosophical Fall Guy, which will come out on March 12th, first episode ever. So stay tuned for that one. All right. Tonight, our guest is Jack. Jack, give us just a brief bio on who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. I am a retired social worker who specialized in the social issues of men and boys. I was a rather lonely social worker. I call myself not an anti-feminist, but a counter-feminist. The difference being that an anti-feminist listens to feminist issues and says, no, that's a bunch of baloney. I don't say that. I say, yeah, some of that's valid. And I don't say no. I don't say but. I say and. Yes, what you're saying is true, but it's not the whole truth, and it's not nothing but the truth. And it is time for the male point of view to be brought into consideration by those of you in the women's movement who want to have us believe that you're really all about gender equality and fairness between men and women, because so far I ain't seeing it.
That's fair. what was it that got you? I mean, you said you were a social worker. What was it that made you specialize in this on this side of things? Like, how did you get to this point?
Well, I was involved and interested in men's issues way before I became a social worker. It was because I became so passionate about what I saw as the problems that didn't need to occur, but that were occurring in our society at just about every level, because we built our social policies around the idea that men have all the power. And it's great being a man, always. It's always great being a man. It's nothing but a pleasure and a privilege, and we have it easy. And I mean, what man doesn't know? That's not exactly the whole truth and nothing but the truth, right? And when, garbage in, garbage out. So the garbage is that it's a man's world and men don't have any problems. You put that garbage into your social policy making machinery, into your legislatures, into your regulatory bodies, into your city councils, you're going to get garbage out. And we have a lot of garbage in our social policies around what men and boys deserve, want, need, and it's a damn shame. It's wrong, and it's wasteful, and we really got to get on the ball about saying, Madam Feminist, you're not going to like this, and I don't expect you to like it, but enough's enough. And now, would you like to listen? Would you like to really listen to how gender fairness might look to men and boys? Or are you really not interested in gender fairness? You're just interested in whatever you can get for women and girls. Which is it?
Well, I have a question just based on that scenario alone. How
we gotta mansplain it to him.
How successful have you been in actually getting feminists to, like hardcore feminists, to actually listen and take in the information that you have to give?
Well, I've pretty much given up on having them listen.
That's fair.
And so I spend my time not trying to talk to them. I spend my time trying to talk to people like you, men and women, who are open-minded and who are aware and concerned about the fact that maybe feminism isn't telling us the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I suspect that, because you are adult men, you've experienced some ways in which maybe it's sometimes a problem being a man. Maybe it's sometimes not fair between men and women to be a man. So I didn't become a social worker. I didn't even go back to social work school or go back to school until I was 54 years old. I had a nice cushy job in DC as an IT guy, 35 hours a week, full 2 weeks vacation, a full pension, a 401k, everything. It was a sweet job, except it bored me and it did not fulfill any sense of purpose in my life. Mm-hmm. That was in 2005 that I left my job and went back to school. But I became first interested actively about male gender issues in 1982. I could tell you that story if you'd like to hear it. What was the precipitating event? You guys might relate to it. I think you'll probably say, yep, been there, understand that. I could also wind it back to when I was about 8 years old, probably about 8 years old, maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm not sure. But I was born in 51, so either in the late 50s, early 60s, I could tell you about something that I remember very vividly in my life that I didn't have words for, but I knew I didn't like it. Which one you want to hear? Should I go back to?
Yeah, let's go back to the early 60s, late 50s.
When I was a kid?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about something that involves the gender issues of men and boys. The gender issues of men and boys have not gotten nearly as much play in the media or in our government policies and programs or in corporate outreach programs as the social issues of women and girls. So I'm going to start talking about something that everybody understands and probably agrees with. I mean, I agree with it too. If you come across a little girl who is really good at sports, we know that it's not a good thing to say to this little girl, gee, Mary, you're really good at sports, ... for a girl.
Right.
If she's really good at math, you don't say, gee, Sally, you're really good at math, ... for a girl. Or science, for a girl. We know that it's a backhanded compliment, but it's not really a compliment. What it's really saying to this little girl is, look, you're a girl, and, girls don't do this. Stay in your lane. Leave that to the men and the boys. And maybe there's something wrong with you, Sally. Did you ever think of that? You're kind of odd. That's really, that's kind of the impression that a young girl might very well get. Like, what's up with that? I'm good at math. Why are you giving me a hard time? All right, so that's what we understand. What happened to me as a young boy was that I used to hear, gee, Jack, you're really good with babies for a boy. And I love babies, had fun with babies. I was good with babies. I could get them to stop crying when their parents couldn't. I was good with them. I loved them. They're fun. What's better than a baby? Come on. But I didn't have words to describe to myself or to help me process what I had just heard. But like I said, I knew I didn't like it. Subsequently, years later, I heard words like sexism and stereotypes and biases and gender roles, but it was all from the women's point of view, how all of these bad things affected women and girls, not at all how they affected men and boys. But they do in a lot of ways. And I am very fond of saying that I'm very fond of saying to people who claim to be staunchly anti-sexist that the most sexist idea of all is the idea that only one sex is ever sexist and only one sex is ever harmed by sexism. If you believe that only men are sexist and only women are harmed by sexism, that's about the most sexist thing you can say. That's the most sexist thing you can believe. And it's not true. Women are not evil, but they're human. And like men who are not evil, but human, women can be sexist. And sexism can be used, stereotypes can be invoked from time to time to disadvantage a group of people for the purposes of another group of people. And we as men, back in the 60s and 70s, had to deal with, a lot of adjustments. The women's movement very rightly said to men, look, you guys, you got to get over this idea that you're inherently superior to us in math and science and social studies. Maybe at the extremes, there are more genius mathematicians who are male than female, okay. But for the most part, we're very much alike and we overlap a lot. So women got us to acknowledge that, yeah, we were raised to believe that we were superior to women in a lot of ways. And we have gotten over that for the most part. The stereotypes that affected women back in the day, whose purpose was primarily to keep women out of the male domain of corporate structures and government and jobs and careers. The purpose of all of these stereotypes was to keep women out of the male domain. Women aren't smart, women aren't strong, women cry too much, women can't make tough decisions, women just want to please everybody, they just want to go shopping, they just want to file their nails, they just want to watch soap operas. They're too silly, they're too fluffy, they're too weak, all of that stuff.
I love Fluffy. That was great.
Yeah. The police commissioner here in Baltimore back in the 60s, I think, when women wanted to become police officers, the police commissioner called them balls of fluff. Called them balls of fluff, and that's why
Never
they
even heard
wasn't
of
going to
this.
have them as women police officers. So you get the idea. You guys
just
weren't
pictured a
around
bunch of
probably
cats as
for any of
cops.
this, huh?
I just pictured cats as cops instead. Like balls of fluff doesn't even make sense to me, but it's right.
All right, so stereotypes against women serve the purpose for men. And not only were there negative stereotypes about women that served men's purposes, there were positive stereotypes about men that served men's purposes. Well, we're very logical and we're very dedicated to our careers and, all of that. And that's why men should run the world of corporate intrigue and hierarchy and making money, and we should run the government, and so there. Okay, so we know about the male power structure. We can picture it as a pyramid. It's a hierarchy. And at the top, there's a dollar sign. And since the women's movement started up, it pointed to the top and said, look at all those men up there who are the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies, and they're almost all male, and that's not fair. All right, great. The Fortune 500. What we don't hear much about is the men at the bottom, whom we should call the misfortune 5 million.
That's good.
Right? Yeah, but we don't hear about them. The guys at the top don't really care much about the guys at the bottom. And the guys at the top would much rather help and feel chivalrous about taking care of a woman they don't know than a man they don't know. So the fact that the guys at the bottom are the same sex as the guys at the top really doesn't do the guys at the bottom one bit of good. As a matter of fact, it kind of makes things worse for them, because all they hear is, you guys have it so easy. Why are you a ditch digger? And the pressure is on. The pressure is on. They're not making any money. They're not getting any love. They're not getting any respect. And so where do we see those guys a lot after they retire from being a ditch digger? Where do they go? A lot of them go to jail.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we hit on every now and then when we talk about this kind of thing. If we come across a story of someone freaking out about some social issue where they think women are being slighted, especially when it comes to prisons. The vast majority of people in prison are male, and that never gets brought up in any feminist rant or anything like that. So that is something where it overlaps a lot with what our show tends to talk about on a regular basis. So one of the questions, so I was reading through your profile on the service that matched us up, and one of the questions, I had some gut reactions. My biggest question is, what has been what's been the response from men who being told that I am being discriminated against, or people are sexist against me, and that's somehow harming me. In my chest just feels like, shut up. What are you talking about? I feel great. Let's not, I don't enjoy feeling like a victim ever. And so what has been your response from men when you explain this line of thinking to them?
Very much what you just said. Often, not always, but often. Men do not get love and respect for complaining about anything. Men get love and respect for solving problems.
Or enduring. Or enduring.
Yeah.
enduring problems.
Yeah. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I feel like solving and just being like quote unquote tough sometimes, and like not being the squeaky wheel, and not like making a scene or a fuss, or like there's something culturally sort of like stoicism almost of like, so that surrounds the like masculine sort of role there. But
Yes, yes. And so that's, that's not by accident. It's very much our role. It's what the society has needed us for. My contention is that society could stand to be a lot easier on men than it is currently being. But, historically, when things were really rough for the human race, you didn't need your men to be talking about their problems. You needed men to be taking care of business, keeping the saber-toothed tigers at bay. Bringing in the harvest, bringing home the bacon. And so, yeah, women are not acculturated to be particularly attracted to men who talk about the fact that they have problems.
Yeah.
Right?
it's
I mean,
interesting on like a long-term like evolutionary timeline to think about like how this could be not just like driving our behaviors, but driving the attraction even potentially. That's interesting.
Yes. Now, I understand that we all have trouble acknowledging that we have problems. We have difficulty accepting the fact that we might have problems that we cannot solve, even though we are very manly men. Right? Even though I am not a victim and I don't want to be claiming victimhood, there does come a time when bad things are happening to you because you're a man and you're sort of trapped. Well, I can't say this is unfair and you're doing this to me because I'm a man, because as a man, I'm supposed to be in control, able to take care of all of my problems on my own. And I refuse to allow myself to be portrayed as a victim. If I have a problem that I can't solve, well, then it's my own damn fault because I'm weak or I'm ineffectual. It's craziness, but it's sort of what the society needed us to think. Do not talk about your problems. We don't have time for that. We're trying to survive because there's a saber-toothed tiger out there who wants to eat us. And you guys got to get out there and keep us safe. Now, the primary way that men get over this obstacle that, Jake very well articulated, I refuse to think of myself as a victim. The way most men who get over that is
Whiskey.
not well, that might drive them to whiskey.
Yeah.
Men are much more likely to be alcoholics than women are, and it's probably not because it's so great to be a man that we get shit-faced, regularly,
Yeah.
and get blottoed.
As we're all sitting here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way most men get over their reluctance to say, this is not fair, and I am being treated wrongly only because I'm a man, the way that happens is when they are hit with a divorce. And that brings up one of the key things that I like to talk about. So we've talked about the male hierarchy and all of the good things that happen in the male hierarchy for the guys who are doing well. There's money, there's interesting jobs, there's careers, there's some good stuff in the male domain, in the traditional male domain, as long as you're not, at the bottom digging ditches. So where is the disadvantage that men face? What's the female power structure what is the female power structure that women want to keep for themselves? You can be 30 miles away from a skyscraper. You can be 30 miles away from a pyramid, and you can see it on the horizon because it's really tall, it's big, it's high. And if we stand at ground level and look around for the female power structure, we're not going to see it because it's not a skyscraper, it's not a pyramid, it's not a hierarchy. Seeing the female power structure requires a bit more sophistication, a few advances in technology. The way you see the female power structure is you wait for somebody to invent the helicopter, and you get in, and you go up, and you fly forward, and you look down. And you don't see a skyscraper, you don't see something that's tall, 100 stories high. You see something that might be only 2 or 3 stories high, but it covers 14 acres. And it's a convention center, a conference center. And instead of a skyscraper where people are sort of competing with each other to be considered successes and to get their happinesses, with the dollar sign at the top, instead of that structure, the convention center only has two stories, but it covers 14 acres, and it doesn't have a top other than a flat roof over the second or third story. It doesn't have a top, but it does have a center. And at the center, instead of the golden dollar sign at the top of the male hierarchy,
It's a kitchen.
what kind of, well, in a way.
Whoops, I was kidding.
In a way, what the female power structure has is a center, and in the center of the female power structure is a big red heart. And, the idea of the kitchen might not be bad because, people think that the kitchen is sort of the heart of the home. I mean, when you go to a party, where does everybody end up? They're in the kitchen. Yeah, it's a nice place. So that's the female power structure. And if you think about the female power structure, what makes it up? It's not one hierarchy. It's a million little hierarchies. And the little hierarchy has a CEO that is female. It's the mother. In the corporate chart, the organizational chart of each of these little corporations, these little hierarchies, in the organizational chart, you got the mother, you got the kids. The kids are sort of like the employees or the clients or the customers. Think of them in several different ways. Where's the man? Well, he's on a dotted line to the mother because he's a vendor. He's a supplier. What does he supply? Well, he supplies what he's supposed to provide. He supplies money. And his relationship to that family is to the mother. He doesn't have a direct line to the children. And that becomes exceedingly clear to him at divorce time. And that's when he starts to realize the idea that women have no power is garbage in. And these divorce laws that are killing me are garbage out.
Yeah.
And it's
Especially if you have kids.
It's more than just about marriage and divorces. The power of the female power structure, the glory of it, the wonderfulness of it, the reason that women do not want to give it up any more than men wanted to give up their domain, it's the idea of relationships, writ large, in all of their wonderful manifestations, including, the fact that sometimes relationships can be a pain in the ass. But for the most part, they give people meaning. The longest longitudinal study of what makes people happy is still going on. It's been going on for, I think, 27 years or something. It's being done at Harvard. It's the question of adult happiness. And the director of this study, a man named George Vaillant, Vaillant, was asked by a reporter from The Atlantic magazine, a guy named Joshua Wolf-Shank, I think this was in about 2000, and asked Dr. Vaillant, so what have you learned about happiness? And I think he even asked it in the context of male happiness. But in some way, Dr. Vaillant talked about male happiness, and he said, the only thing that matters for men to be happy as adults is their relationships. And that seems so counterintuitive because we are so programmed not to think about our relationships. You know, when your girlfriend says, Zane, we need to talk about our relationship.
That has never happened, by the way.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't want to talk about the relationship. You just want to be in the relationship. You don't want to pay attention to it. Right? The girls take care of that. Let the women take care of that. We're not programmed. We're not rewarded for how much we attend to relationships. We let that be women's domain, very much like in the old days, we used to be the ones who would take care of the finances and balance the checkbooks and pay the bills and do the investing, you know, because we were the money people, because we were men and we understood all that stuff. And women didn't, because you know how women are, they're so silly.
And fluffy.
And fluffy. So in the female domain, you know, we are the 98-pound weaklings. You know, we just are not pumped up to take care of our relationships. And we need to be, because they really are, at least according to this really rigorous long-term study, relationships really are key to living a happy life, especially as a man.
So is that, when you say relationships, is that mostly or only in reference to romantic relationships or relationships with your children? Because if that's true, then Nick and I have a lot of work to do. But if it can also be relationships with, you know, your friends or other people, then I would at least feel a little bit better. Because I was saying that in relation to a lot of the things that you've been saying, where I feel like maybe a lot of these issues, these kind of men issues, have been revealed or at least exacerbated by a lot of just negative societal trends in general. You know, I would specifically cite the decline of religion. You know, I'm biased in that regard, but you know, if you are a member of a church community that's really close, then you might have, you know, close male friends or advisors that if you're a man and you need somebody to talk to about issues,
sometimes
then you
because the Catholic. Sorry, but go ahead.
Okay.
It's a joke. Sorry, keep going.
But that's a really good way to have an outlet of like people that you trust to be able to talk about things that you need to talk about and not come off as being, you know, weak or not manly. And so I think, you know, we hear a lot about male loneliness, and I think that, you know, that's very related to all this, where there's not a good way for, you know, single men to make deep and abiding friendships and relationships outside of getting married to people that maybe they shouldn't have gotten married to, which I think exacerbates the divorce problem. I think, you know, if people were more serious about who they chose to get married to, if they went into the marriage with the idea of, we're not, you know, gonna get divorced for no apparent reason, and if you confirmed with your, you know, prospective spouse that she also felt the same way, not that divorces would never happen, and there's obviously a lot of laws that greatly advantage women and some would say incentivize them to get divorced. But if the mindset going into the marriage was both spouses were on the same page, this is not going to end in divorce, I feel like a lot of men would not be in the problem of, oops, I married somebody I shouldn't have, and now they want to get out of here with all of my money.
And your children.
Right.
And your children. So it's relationships writ large. Your buddies, your friends, your relationships with your siblings, with your parents, with your aunts, your uncles, extended family, with your neighbors. It's relationships writ large. It's the fellow who cuts your your beef at the butcher shop. It's all of the people in your life who you have a relationship with. They know you, you know them, you can kibitz a little bit, they make you laugh, you make them laugh. If you ever get in the bind, they can maybe do you a favor. It's just nicer. It's nicer.
Well, we're a social species too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure you're familiar with like the
yes.
book Bowling Alone.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
yes,
it's a lot of
yes,
that.
Yes. Also related to this is the fact that the Pew Research Center recently found that people, including men, are much more suspicious about male-only groups, men getting together as men, than they are about female groups, women getting together as women.
It's a
So
coven.
that adds yet another incentive for men really not to want to hang out with other men, because a lot of people are suspicious about why are they doing that? Are they getting together to bolster the patriarchy so that they can strengthen their oppression of women? That kind of thing. Now,
Most of the time, yes.
Also, Zane, I didn't hear that. I don't know if I should have, but
No, it's fine.
okay. So Zane, on the idea of being intentional about who you marry, yes, of course. But, has some I'm sure have, but not many people get married not believing that, let's talk about men who tend to be, I believe it's been demonstrated, that men are pretty much more romantic than women are, contrary to the popular beliefs and the portrayals of women. But men get married because they think this woman is so perfect. She's an angel. I just love her to death, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. Well, okay, that's great for like the first 7 years. Then if you get past the 7-year itch, okay. Time goes on. You get a little bit maybe taking each other for granted, and she comes home one day, and she says, "Zane, we've grown apart, and I've fallen in love with my yoga instructor."
It's always the yoga instructor.
Well, not Zane doesn't have a yoga instructor,
How could you tell?
but Zane's wife does.
Uh-huh.
And he's this really cute guy, and he's so limber, and he's wonderful.
Yeah.
He's everything you're not, Zane. She won't say that, but that's how you feel.
And his chakras perfectly aligned.
And so I'm leaving you, Zane, and I'm running off with my yoga instructor. We're going to go to Idaho, and of course I'm taking the children, and of course I value your importance to the children. So yeah, you can come on out a couple of times each summer, and you can be the dad for a little while. What do you do about that?
Okay, so there's a premise here which I'm not sure that I grant, which is that I agree that nobody gets married if they think in advance that they're going to get divorced. But I think
some people definitely do.
I think there are varying degrees of seriousness with which you can take that. I mean, you can either think that marriage is a contract and that will keep it going for as long as we feel like it, or you can think that marriage is a covenant before God and that is two flesh becoming one. And if you're on the same page with your spouse about that, and hopefully, if you're doing your job as a man, I would say you would hopefully notice that something is wrong in the relationship before the wife just goes straight to divorce. Like
so Zane, I'm going to put you on the spot here, I think. You didn't notice it, and so therefore you're a failure as a man, because you should have noticed it. And if you had noticed it, what would you have done? What could you do?
Well, we're speaking strictly in hypotheticals here because I'm not married. As you probably could have been able to tell, given the fact that I don't know, probably a lot of things, but
You look very young.
So I did not say that if you didn't notice that is a failure as a man, but because we're talking in abstractions here, and each individual case has its own facts and circumstances. But my guess would be if you took a sampling of relationships that ended in divorce where the man never noticed any issue until the wife said that she wanted a divorce, it would be hard for me to believe that in a majority of those cases there was not something that the man was seriously overlooking, and that would not have been difficult to spot.
Okay,
I'm not saying that it could never happen.
But you're blaming him. You're blaming him.
No, I'm blaming both of them to different extents.
But he didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't happen to notice, because you know what? The wife never came home and said, "Boy, I really am falling in love with my yoga instructor."
So if the hypothetical situation that we're talking about really did happen exactly as you're describing, then yes, I would agree. The man has 0% to blame. What I'm disputing is I don't think that happens nearly as much as some people say that it does.
Okay, well, I'm one of the ones who says that it happens a lot, and I hope it doesn't happen to you. Now, Zane, you raise another good point about the idea of marriage being a contract before God, and that should have a lot more weight than it sometimes does when it is confronted with an ideology that talks about female empowerment, and you have a right to be happy. And if you're not happy in that relationship, well, it's not good for the kids either. And here's 27 justifications for why you should feel perfectly okay about leaving your husband because you just don't think he's that exciting or wonderful anymore. Which happens a lot. Isn't that basically it? We've grown apart. And I'm not happy, and I'm approaching 45 years of age, and the kids are grown, and so, I don't really need you that much anymore. So I'm going to go out and try to find some different kinds of happiness. And I'm doing this because the sisterhood said I should, and that I could. And that marriage is really just a patriarchal oppression of women. And so don't listen to Zane.
That's good advice no matter what, though.
Don't listen to me.
No, I've actually been thinking about this a lot the last few years, is like the what it means to be happy and why we're being preached at so often and so much that you just need to be happy. Because I don't think happiness is like the indicator of whether or not you're living a good life or you're on the right track. I think happiness fluctuates quite a bit. I haven't been able to actually put my finger on exactly what my conclusion is yet, but I think happiness is very fleeting and is based solely on certain circumstances lining up with certain emotions, with certain mindsets. And I don't care for everybody just chasing happiness. I don't think that's a good way to go about life. I think it's a collection of things, but I think purpose is far higher on the list than happiness is. Go ahead.
So I would suggest that if you think about a person who is living out a noble purpose, one of the things high on their list of living out a noble purpose is being good to other people, caring about other people, helping other people, not being self-involved and thinking only of yourself. And so relationships go hand in hand with living a good life. Happy relationships, healthy relationships, mutually beneficial, nurturing, community-minded friendships go hand in hand with living a good life. And, you think about happiness, that word appears I think it's in the Declaration of Independence. It's not just a silly word. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our founding fathers recognized that what is the purpose of life if not to be happy and to help other people be happy? To be a force for good and joy in the world.
It's funny you bring that quote up because I actually prefer the original John Locke formulation of that quote, which is the right to life, liberty, and property. When you say the right to the pursuit of happiness, that's a very fluffy phrase, as you might say. And so I kind of agree with Jake that I don't think that people really understand what they mean when they say happiness a lot of the time.
Well, what do you mean when you say property, Zane?
I don't think you want to get into that.
Yacht?
I don't think you want to get into
Tell me about property. It's going to make you happy.
Jack, you're going to open up a can of worms about property if you let Zane down this rabbit hole. But that's fine. Zane, go ahead and answer the question.
Unleash it, Zane.
All right. So, as I said, this goes back to the second treatise on government by John Locke, where he lays out what is pretty commonly accepted as, at least in libertarian circles, as the way that you justly acquire property, which is that you either that it, which means that you're the first one to bring it into the realm of production, like you're the first one to start using it, or you acquire it through trade from somebody who had homesteaded it. So when we say that something is somebody's property, that's a very precise term. Whereas happiness, there are a lot of, it can be momentary happiness, it can be contentment, it can be fulfillment. There are a lot of things that it's a subjective feeling. So when we say that you should pursue that as the chief goal of your life, I think, I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad. I think that there might just be something missing there.
It's harder to define.
Okay. So John Locke, who apparently was overruled by the other great political philosophers of the time, who decided to be a little fluffy and talk about this silly thing called happiness.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. So John Locke is saying that people will either invent property or acquire it.
Trade for it, buy it.
He will trade for it. Okay. Did he talk about the fact that some people have acquired a lot of property by stealing it, by stabbing other people in the back, by bribery, by fraud? Property is not a proxy for having lived a noble life. It can be.
I wasn't making that claim at all. No, of course not.
Well, so what's so great about property?
I wasn't saying that anything was so great about it. I was saying that when we talk about, what rights should be regarded as being fundamental, I would say that it's probably, I don't know, we're probably getting too deep into the weeds of libertarian philosophy here. That has nothing to do with what we were talking about before.
I think what you did there, Zane, is you brought up somewhat of an irrelevant point to what Jack was making by bringing up the original iteration of that quote and how it got changed when it went into
it's a libertarian pick.
I was trying to build on what Jake said and it didn't go well. I apologize.
It's all right. No,
well, take a lap, Zane.
Yeah, sorry, Jack. It's we're very, very, very much libertarians, and Zane is kind of our philosophical.
Well, I could stand to learn a lot more about libertarianism. So if you want to talk about that, I'm all ears. I would love to know more about that. I gotta believe though that libertarianism is not against the idea of happiness.
No, not at all.
No. It just doesn't make it a government job to protect your happiness or something like that. Like
that's basically what it is.
It
tells
up to you.
Stay out of it, and it's up to the individual to create their own happiness. Basically.
Yeah, libertarianism all about just like very limited roles of government, and happiness is just not really part of that so much. But
yeah, It's not a moral philosophy. It's a
Political philosophy.
A lot of libertarians probably have this as a very personal, like this is their own like moral compass, and that's fine,
Oh,
but it's just
that's
a
exactly
separation from
where you see a lot of splits, is that there are a lot of people who take what should be a political philosophy that can be boiled down to some very, very simple principles, and then try to apply it beyond there and try to apply it to everything they can, and it just fails miserably. And
That's why our show works
being
so
around
well.
that,
We aren't like that at all.
Well, and we
Yeah,
see in politics, we
Jake's
see
the
a lot of
boss,
things.
and we just show up.
We see a lot of things come into politics in the modern day that I feel like in general, both from the left and the right, that I think are just bloated beyond the role of what government should be. Is what libertarians would say.
Yes.
And a lot of it comes from, some of it's like a heart space thing. And it's like, I'm not even saying I disagree with some of the points. I'm just saying that it's not the job of the government to make sure that this happens, and things like that.
Holding it, or
some of
holding
it
it
could be on the feminist track even too of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
or you
so-
know, achieving some of these things at the point of a gun, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
we have to help the less fortunate, so you know,
start a war.
so give me money, or you're going into a cage, right? That's not the way that's supposed to happen. That's not an effective way, in my opinion.
You shouldn't
Because
undermine one principle.
Because then, kind of tying it all back to this, then you get all the downstream effects of it, that you know, the seen and the unseen effects, right? So you can look at it and say, you know, you incentivize single motherhood, right? You say, all right, if there's not a father in the house, you get more welfare on this, you get that, you get all this extra. But if there's a man in the house, well, you know, you don't get that much. You know, so the economic incentive to that drives it to be, well, you've got to have a single mother taken care of on this. And, you know, there's the welfare cliff in there where you're getting so much in benefits that if you get to the point where where those benefits start going away because you're making too much money, you don't make enough to cover the amount that you've lost in those benefits. So you see those incentives that trap people into the welfare system, drive families apart, and things like that you can kind of derive down these paths as well.
And when you talk about that, you're Nick, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, when you talk about that and the incentives to not want to include or feel like you need to include the father of your children in your family, that is directly connected to the huge mountain of negative stereotypes currently in existence about men. And that's why I want to mention to Alden, I think you pointed out that this is not just the job of government to make us all happy, right? Mm-hmm. So the government can be involved in not making us unhappy, which I think is what the government does with its current divorce system in most states.
And many things, yeah.
Yeah. But many of the problems that we face as men are not based on government regulations as much as just on popular culture.
That's totally fair.
You know,
and it's a chicken and an egg thing of like what feeds what in that circle. But
yeah, think of all of the negative stereotypes about men. You know, we rattled off a bunch of them about women. Think of all of the negative stereotypes about men that justify, that make it okay for a woman to do a calculation about how she's going to keep her family going and do what's best for the kids if she and everybody else she knows thinks men ain't shit.
Yeah,
and that's not a government thing. The government supports that idea.
Right.
The government doesn't do anything to broadcast the very clear science that that's a wrong idea, but it just allows it to happen. The influencers, you know, superstars, celebrities, you know, we're empowered women and we don't need any man. I don't need any man. I'm the mother. I'm the mother. The man, more trouble than they're worth. Who needs
Right.
it?
You see
It
that
is a
like,
very
a lot of
strange
the-
contradiction to hold both of those views at the same time, where you can think men are nothing, we don't need men, and yet also men are the only ones with the access to the high-level jobs. You would at least think that if society was biased in favor of man, that would be a reason why you would need one. And yet both of these thoughts seem to exist in people's head at the same time.
No, it's not a contradiction because their purpose, and they've made a lot of progress in overcoming the male domain over making money.
Yeah, but you
and
still hear
plus-
people trotting out the 80 cents on the dollar thing. I mean, it's been debunked over and over and over again, but people are still saying it. Where it's like, if you really believed that, you would think that you as a woman would want to not get divorced on that account. And yet they still do, because a lot of the divorce laws are terrible and everything else.
Well, there's a difference between what you believe to be true and the rhetoric that you put out there to advance your political purposes. And that's a lot of what feminism is about.
Yeah. Well, Jack, we're going to talk more about this after trivia, but for now, let's go do some trivia. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sure.
Let's do some trivia.
If I could find the dadgum. All
Sorry,
right.
somebody. If I could find the dadgum, and then it cuts right to that was pretty funny.
All right. Zane, take it away, brother.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of Libations Trivia. As usual, we've got trivia in 3 rounds. Round 1 is 8 questions, 1 point each. Round 2, 6 questions, 2 points each. Round 3 is 4 questions, 3 points each. I think all of our contestants finally have their whiteboard or piece of paper ready to go in advance. So our contestants on the show will write down their answer, and then when time is up, we'll reveal them. And if you're in the audience, you can write your questions in the write your answers in the chat. And if any of you get it right,
Hannah's gonna win.
then the
with
audience
one
will get the
question.
point.
Of course, Hannah showed up just in time for trivia.
Yeah, of course.
Well, she says she's back. She says she's heading out after question 1.
She said
And
she'll be
coming
back,
back.
so that doesn't bode well.
So
for
we
her.
got to hurry through it before she gets back.
Let's go, Zane. Go.
Hurry.
Question 1.
All right, so tonight's categories. I was listening to
Fluffy
last
things.
week's show, which I wasn't on, but specifically Alden complained that the trivia was too academic and that we
We were just
needed
talking about that.
blue collar trivia. And so these are actually a very appropriate set of categories because I think we have some unusually manly trivia tonight.
All right. There
Yeah,
we go.
let's
Masculine blue collar trivia. All right.
Zane loves to play with the theme of the show.
If I do really poorly on this, then I'm out. That's fine.
All right. Round 1, we've got men of the people. Round 2, we've got blue collar trivia, and round 3 is called
Lowbrow.
lowbrow.
Oh, lowbrow instead of highbrow. All right.
Hello, bro. I like it.
Question 1. What politician and author of the autobiography Every Man a King once quipped, "All I care is what the boys at the forks of the creek think of me"?
Eight, 7,
Does everyone know? Because I have no idea.
5, 4,
I'm off to a bad start here.
2, 1. Call us one by one, Zane.
We'll go in order. So Jack,
So do I show you this or just you'll believe me what I wrote?
I'll believe you. what
You're
you
first, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
I'm guessing Teddy Roosevelt.
All right, Teddy Roosevelt, Alden.
I skipped way forward and I went Reagan.
I went Teddy Roosevelt as well.
Oh,
Nick also going Theodore Roosevelt. What do we
Yeah.
have from the audience?
Audience says Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, and
Jesus.
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan's the winner here. Yeah.
All right, lots of answers here, but this was in fact Huey Long,
All right. Well, yeah.
the very populist governor of Louisiana that got assassinated during
Oh,
the
wow.
Great Depression.
I love that 3 of us guessed Teddy Roosevelt. That's
And it was
unbelievable.
wrong.
It's something that we
Yeah.
could see Teddy Roosevelt saying, and I was never going to guess Huey Long.
I was never going to do that. Yeah. I would have said Huey Short before Huey Long, I think.
He's a very interesting character.
I bet.
I mean, he got assassinated. He has to be.
I'm glad you catered this trivia to me. This is working so far.
We're one question in. Give it time. Question 2. What president's inaugural dinner at the White House was so crowded that bowls of whiskey punch were placed on the lawn to entice people to exit?
I have no idea, but that's hilarious. Oh, man.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, Jack.
Andrew Jackson.
Alden.
Jefferson.
Jake.
Kamala Harris.
Nick says John Adams.
Let's see. John Adams, George Washington, and Clinton were guesses from
White House didn't exist.
Clinton would be
was
hilarious.
when Washington was president, so that's out.
Ooh.
All right, so this was Andrew Jackson.
Nicely done. That was Jack, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Jack.
Nice,
And-
Jack.
John Adams was a particularly bad answer because this was the inauguration after Jackson actually unseated John Quincy Adams.
I wish it was
President.
beer instead of whiskey,
And-
because then it could be the trail of beers, but
Okay. All right.
Jack's on the board.
Jackson
Yellow
did
on the
cross my
board.
mind, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I was figuring early White House and people were just doing whatever, but
Question 3. What golfer earned the nickname the People's Champion due to his enthusiasm for interacting with fans, unlike his contemporary Tiger Woods?
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
All right, I'm not sure he was a contemporary of Tiger Woods, but I'm going to say Gary Player.
Alden.
is it Mickelson, aka Mr. Nichols?
All right. Jake and Nick both say Phil Mickelson.
Yeah.
Audience says John Daly. Arnold
I like the John
Palmer.
Daly answer.
John Daly's probably it, though.
This is none other than Mr. Nichols himself, Phil Mickelson.
Yay! This trivia was catered to me. Even though everyone else got it too, that's fine.
Question 4. What NBA superstar is shown here celebrating the bronze medal he won for his home country of Serbia?
Oh, what is that idiot's name?
Which one's him?
The guy in the center drinking the beer.
Mr. Beerman?
Ted Gummit. I know him. I cannot remember his
I do
dadgum
not.
name. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
I got no idea.
Yeah.
Alden.
I'll go with Joe Beerbelly.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go.
I'm pretty sure it's Bill Nye, the science guy.
I put Stan.
Stan?
Yes. Doncic?
No, that's
However you would say that.
You at least named a NBA,
NBA
player.
player. Yeah.
Bill Nye's not an NBA player?
And it sounded like an Eastern European name.
Something
Uh,
Oh my god.
That's
No,
so
Nick was
funny.
close. This is Nikola Jokic.
Jokic. Yeah.
Mhm.
After he
About
won the NBA title, he was like,
That sounds
Okay.
like the
Okay.
Serbian name for Jokic.
I picked the NBA name I thought I knew that sounded Eastern European, and
"You're right." I mean, Doncic is from Slovenia, so
yeah, I don't pay attention to the NBA, so
I don't either. But he
Okay.
was a Maverick until a month ago.
About a month ago, yeah. a couple
Question
weeks ago. That's
5.
why the name's in my head because I saw that.
What author received the following review of his 1885 novel?
Can I just
The
stop you
Conquer-
right there real quick and just say this is the kind of thing that I will never know. I will never know this. Like this is just already this is a paragraph, 1885 book, never know. Go ahead. Carry on.
The
Sorry.
Concord, Massachusetts Public Library Committee has decided to exclude his latest book from the library. One member of the committee says that while he does not wish to call it immoral, he thinks it contains but little humor, and that of a very coarse type. He regards it as the veriest trash. The library and the other members of the committee entertain similar views, characterizing it as rough, coarse, and inelegant, dealing with a series of experiences not elevating, the whole book being more suited to the slums than to intelligent, respectable people.
Oh, Lord.
I don't know where you even know this or found this, but it's hilarious.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
I'm not even sure he wrote novels, but how about Henry David Thoreau?
All right, Alden.
Obviously, Mark Twain.
Jake.
Mark Twain.
Nick.
My second thought was Steinbeck, but
Yeah,
I had to go.
Tolstoy. And we have Jackie Chan again.
Jackie Chan, clearly.
No,
Jack,
this
if you don't
was
know,
a-
we have like inside long running jokes that these answers keep coming up if we don't know.
This was a review of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This
It is Mark Twain. Oh my god! Callback.
I actually thought I had a shot at being right with Mark Twain.
It's around the time I was like, I'm gonna throw it up.
Yeah, it was the right time.
That's why I did it. Yeah, I'm like,
I like
that
that
is
I
the time
prefaced
period.
with I would never know it, and then I got it right.
Question 6. What man served as mayor of Toronto from 2010 to 2014? During his campaign, his polling got a boost after his 1999 DUI conviction became public.
Oh, I love this dude.
I don't know any Canadians. So
I can't spell Canadian names.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
What Canadian politicians do I know who got a boost to be the big man? I'm going to say Trudeau.
Alden.
Same. It's my only guess.
Let's say
Jake.
Maple.
Doug Ford.
Maple.
All right, what does the audience have to say?
Monsieur Maple.
The audience said Poliver, Doug Ford, and Justin Bieber.
All right, I'm going to give Nick and the audience a half a point because it's Rob Ford.
Oh!
His
All
brother. Okay.
Yeah,
They're brothers.
Nick loves him
They are.
so much he doesn't even know his dadgum name.
Well, the Ford brothers are entertaining.
Nah.
Question 7. According to a biography written by his son, what man once entered his own lookalike contest and came in third? The story likely isn't true, although lookalike contests for this man were extremely popular due to his iconic look.
Oh my god, that's what a hilarious concept. When was this? There's no
If he
date
told
on
you,
this?
you'd know the answer.
I have no idea.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
Abraham Lincoln.
Alden.
Ooh, good guess.
That's pretty funny, actually. I went Elvis.
Oh,
Jake.
dadgummit. I want Elvis too.
The answer is Charlie Chaplin.
Is it really?
Yes.
The answer from the audience: Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, Thomas Edison, and Elvis.
This is, in fact, Charlie Chaplin.
Nicely done, Nick. I just went with, like, I don't know, just a wild guess because I've
An
never heard of
iconic
this.
look. That's what I went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There are a few of those. I almost guessed Bob Dylan.
Really? That's funny. I wouldn't have thought of it.
That would have been far more recent, though.
Yeah.
Question 8. Pictured here are several members of what organization?
Trump's White House for sure. There's McDonald's on it.
Generally, you don't give people clues to the right answer if you're competing against them. But I'm sure they're grateful.
We were probably people are probably thinking similar things anyway.
I thought that first, and I'm just going for the funniest answer because I don't care.
2, 1. Go ahead.
Jack.
Can I get a hint? Like, what are those things on the table?
McDonald's.
It looks like McDonald's burgers and
boxes.
stuff.
Fast food of some kind, yeah.
Start with Nick.
All
Yeah,
right,
we'll go
Nick.
reverse order.
The Rotary Club.
The
All
road.
right, Nick just says
Administration.
Trump administration. Jake says White House staff. Alden.
The Food and Drug Administration.
All right, what does the audience have to say?
The Illuminati.
Doge.
Deep state and Trump's cabinet.
This was the 2018 national champion Clemson Tigers. If you remember this happening, their White
I
House
remember.
visit after
not
the
remember.
national championship game was during one of the government shutdowns. So instead of having the actual White
McDonald's
House
was
meal,
one of the
he
only
just
things
brought
I
in a
think.
bunch of McDonald's.
Yeah.
I
forgot
do remember
that
that now
happened.
that you said it. Yeah.
Well, we knew it was all like, if you get it, like it was clearly something Trump related, being McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's just exactly what it is.
All right, going into round 2, we've got Nick in the lead with 3.5 points, Jake and Alden with 2, Jack with 1, and the audience with 0.5 point.
Hey, we're beating the audience this
Yeah,
week. Mo.
that's
This
hey,
is great.
I'll take it.
Round 2, blue collar trivia. Question 1. What part of a car is responsible for controlling the mix of air and fuel entering the engine?
What era car?
What part?
Yeah, this really makes a difference because
True enough.
Uh-oh. My ignorance of most blue collar topics might
Ah,
be...
this is hilarious. He tries to do blue collar, and we're all like, "Wait a minute, is this pre 1973, bro?" Like,
They always say write what you know, and I do not know very much about this.
yeah,
All
I feel
can
like I
say-
know what Zane's getting at, but
You
I'm gonna have
gotta know what Zane's getting at, yo.
yeah,
All I can say is that if you go on the Wikipedia page for this
Yeah.
the description,
yeah, okay, right.
All right, I think everybody's ready.
Yeah, let's all teach Zane something here about cars.
all right, Jack.
Well, I remember I had to adjust these here things, and I believe it's called your carburetor.
Alden.
Yeah, it's either carb, and in modern times we don't use carbs, so it's like injectors or whatever.
it's
but-
it's either a carburetor or a fuel injector if you're talking about.
Yeah, I
modern.
said fuel injector first, and then I was like, wait.
yeah.
Zane doesn't know
The
what he's
carburetor
talking
mixes both.
Yeah,
in
the
one,
carburetor.
and fuel
just-
injectors are separate, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. The audience all said carburetor.
yeah,
Everyone gets this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we all know the first thing about cars, yeah.
except Zane.
Except Zane.
Well, I know it now that I wrote the question about it.
Oh man.
You missed that part where they left carburetors behind and went to fuel injectors, though.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time.
All right, moving on.
There's like a couple of motorcycles that still use carburetors, Zane. It's okay.
It's true.
Which of these is a Phillips head?
Oh, okay. This is kind of another
All right.
iffy thing, but
Show them.
Shut up, Jack.
B, like boy.
All right, Alden.
I went C.
Jake
Because-
says B. Nick says B.
Yeah.
Audience says B. It is B.
Okay. I was gonna say like the difference between Phillips and Phillips 2 and Phillips 3 and whatever, but I didn't realize that.
Well, the
Yeah.
question wasn't about Philip the Third.
I mean, you can get all sorts of like crazy.
I
crazy-
thought that this one was like the Phillips that's like the really fat Phillips that's like the Phillips 3 or whatever that's like, but
I
okay.
see what you're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cross is mainly so you can use multiple tools to open it. Same like the French recess is something completely different.
See, I don't use the symbols for them so much. I just know that the Phillips doesn't have that gap in the middle. So if you were to look at a Phillips head bit, it actually looks more like the cross one for Phillips 1 and 2. But anyway, whatever.
Right. Yep.
So I don't know the symbols for them. I just use them. I don't know, whatever.
Question 3. Samuel Blanc, pictured here with an early version of his machine, is the founder of what company?
$15 seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, I'll start with Nick.
I think it's a vacuum, so like a Hoover.
Jake.
It's a sewing machine.
Alden.
I went very general. I have no idea, so I went Craftsman.
Jack.
General Electric.
We got Chevy, Roto-Rooter, and Tesla.
Tesla, yes.
Grumpy Gnome coming in absolutely clutch. This is Roto-Rooter.
Wow! Good
Jeez.
job, Grumpy.
Is that a giant toilet snake situation?
Yes.
Is that what that is? Okay. I didn't know
Yes,
what
it's
that
a
was.
motorized toilet snake.
Okay,
Oh,
nice.
yes.
Okay. That's something I've never used. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Only the small little hand one. Like,
Roto-Rooter. Wow.
Question 4. What company sells trademarked ballroom jeans, which are being advertised here?
what company sells ballroom jeans?
Get it?
No.
Oh! I do get it.
What?
What is that dadgum company?
What? This is why does anyone know what this is? What are we talking about? I'm so lost.
What is that stinking company? I want to say. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack?
I got no idea. My wife does ballroom dancing, so I'm going to say Arthur Murray.
There we go.
Alden?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying Levi's because I have no idea.
Jake?
Dickies.
Says
You would
Dickies.
say
Nick?
Dickies.
Is it Duluth Trading?
That's what it is. It's dadgum Duluth. Duluth frickin' trading.
Is that the
Carhartt,
the
Dickies.
weird commercials for underwear now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all. Ballroom. Room for your balls.
Oh my
Yes.
god!
Oh.
I should have got it. I didn't get it.
Of
I
all the
referenced
people
the
to not
ads.
get that, I did
Yeah, I
not
know.
expect Alden to not understand.
Yeah.
Genuine.
I'm embarrassed.
It took me a second to pick up on it. I'm like, oh, and then I can just recall their commercials kind of having that style to them.
Ballroom.
I knew
Oh
it started
my
with
God.
a B,
I'm
and
so
I could
embarrassed.
not remember the dadgum name of the company.
To be fair, I didn't remember either. Like as soon as I heard it, I was like, "That's the one." But
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have got
On us regards.
it.
All right, this question has an audio component to it. So,
Oh, okay.
Jake, if you want to pause the music for a second.
No, I like mixed audio.
There we go.
All right, this tune, which has over 27 million listens on Spotify, is associated with what company?
It's a banger.
I'm totally gonna get this wrong.
Victoria's Secret. Everyone knows. This one I'm very sure
I'm
of.
gonna guess the wrong one. I know it. I know it. Y'all can start showing.
I'm
All right,
I'm
Nick.
ready. I don't know.
The Home Depot.
Yeah.
HD.
Jack.
That's what you
Yeah, that's
get,
what I was going to
HD.
say too. Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
All right, I believe you.
Thank you.
What does the audience have to say?
I was gonna say, Jake, if you got that wrong, your wife had it right in the comments, and so that would be embarrassing.
Yes, she did. Yeah, that would have been bad. Oh, actually, Zach got it right, I think. The
Home Depot. Nice. Oh my god.
Jake absolutely gets a point for HD.
I know. You can't spell Home Depot. It's because he's embarrassed. He doesn't know how to spell depot with the silent.
He was erasing Lowe's real quick.
I was 100% erasing Lowe's real quick before.
That is such a good call. Oh my god. I knew you were struggling between the two, and I was like, come on, this is sad.
I just hear both the commercials all the time, and like that Josh, whatever his name is the voice of Lowe's, and so I always think of Lowe's.
Who?
He's a big name, Josh Lucas. He was in
Robin?
Sweet Home Alabama and a bunch of other movies. Anyway, keep going, Zane.
Question 6. Catfish noodler, cow inseminator, and owl vomit collector are among the occupations highlighted on what television series?
Bonus points if you know what owl vomit is called.
No one knows that.
I know that. It's called a biscuit.
I think I had heard that, but I would not have
It's
remembered.
the hair and bones that they throw up.
Did you learn that from
They
this
don't
television
digest.
series?
No, I learned that because I
5,
grew
4,
up on a wildlife
3,
rehab center.
2, 1, and I already know I got this wrong.
All right, Jack.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Point for hilarity. That was great.
That's great.
Alden,
Dirty jobs.
Jake,
DJ.
Troll. Nick
says dirty jobs.
Yeah.
Audience.
Dirty Jobs, and The Bachelorette.
That's another good one.
All right. At the end of round 2, we have Jack with 7, Alden and Jake with 8, the audience with 10.5, and Nick leading the way with 13.5.
We're now losing to the audience, the people to my left. Ugh.
Can you guys hear my cat trying to break the door down?
No.
No,
Okay, I'll just
Yeah.
let her.
You're
for
good.
the music right now.
I'll just let her claw at my door then.
Round
All right, this
3,
one's built specifically for Alden.
lowbrow.
What?
What is the official name of this prop?
Damn it.
It's a 4-word name, and I need all
Oh.
4 words.
Oh.
If I had to guess what Nick is doing right now, he's probably going to get the one of these that he owns.
My goodness.
All right, time's up.
All right, Nick.
The Big Mouth Billy Bass, which is what I wrote, but yes,
Oh
I
my
did have
God.
one because my dad dug it up like a week or two ago and was like, take this to your house.
That's amazing. Mine says Glass the Singing Bass.
I went a very similar direction as Jake. I went singing bass with ass.
All right, Jack. What you
All
got
right,
there?
I want to throw myself on the mercy of the court for a half a point because I put Billy Big Mouth Bass.
All right, you got
Billy Largemouth Bass.
Oh, there
You
we go.
got
That would have been better.
you did get all 4 of the words, so I'll give you the points. It is the Big Mouth, the Billy Bass.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if you get Billy,
Does Zach
in
get
there-
it in the comments? Because he said Big Mouth Bass Billy.
Big Mouth Bass,
Yeah.
Bass Billy, Big
Yeah.
Mouth Billy Bass. Hannah got it.
Yeah, it's all the same.
You got all 4 words, you get it.
Yeah, me and Jake are the only ones that don't get it. That's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna make any excuses. I'm an idiot.
No. You know what, Jake? It's okay. Be proud that you didn't get that one right. That's all right.
All right. I like that.
Question 2. What automobile decoration is believed to date back to World War II fighter pilots who would hang them from their instrument panel for good luck? That's supposed to say luck. I'm not sure why.
For good luck. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna look good.
Ten seconds. Three, 2, 1.
Jack.
Foam dice.
Alden.
Mercedes. I tried to draw it.
Jake
Dice.
says dice. Nick says dice.
I didn't know if it was the automobile
The
emblem.
dice?
Okay, it really
Little
is
girl.
the dice?
Dice. Girl.
Wow.
It is the dice.
Dang. I was totally misread that's my fault. I misread the
Dude, I was reading it the same way you were, Alden, at first until the end of the question.
Yeah, I thought it was like an automobile like emblem, like a logo or something.
Yep,
This is
that's-
just the
that's how
problem
I
with
was reading
being
it at the
a
beginning.
logo designer. Yeah, I just think in terms of that, but
Wait, you design logos?
yeah. And I was like, and then I'm like, Saab used to be plane engines. And I'm like, that's a complicated logo to hang from your like. I didn't get that, so I went with a simple logo. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
Question 3. What phrase, dating back to a 17th century nursery rhyme, was popularized by a series of commercials featuring the Bud Knight?
What?
Oh, no. 10 seconds.
I have no idea.
All right, 3 seconds.
All right, Nick.
Beer me.
Jake.
A pox on your head.
Alden.
Don't let the bed buds bite.
Clever. Jack.
Yeah, you got to guess.
Bud Knight.
Honestly.
Tastes great, less filling.
Oh, yeah. I think the audience has it.
Zach says,
Although-
"What's up? We all fall down."
We all fall down. It's good.
Oh, she meant dilly dilly.
It's Dilly Dilly.
Dilly
I remember that
Dilly.
now.
Audience has it. It's
Oh
Dilly Dilly.
no!
Kidding me?
Except
Hannah?
that's Zach's second guess, and Hannah's first guess was wrong. So
No, Hannah's first guess was dilly dilly. Autocorrect doesn't like it.
shh,
So they
don't
got it
give them
right.
points.
No, we're not going to cheat them. We're
We've
just
got
going
When I
to
saw it, I
Dilly
was like,
Dilly
shh.
Bass.
The second I saw it, I'm like, shit, that's what it was. That used to be such
Yeah.
a good phrase.
I do not
Yeah.
remember dilly dilly.
I remember it. I just couldn't remember it before it was said because it's stuck in the back of my head. But
Don't remember it, Jake.
Terrible.
Question 4. What director was prompted to make the 2022 film Ambulance because COVID lockdowns in Los Angeles prevented him from working on anything else?
Terrible movie. It's a terrible, stupid movie. Don't watch this movie.
I have never heard of it.
It's awful. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's awful.
I usually like him, but
I know he's
except for
one of the
Roadhouse,
best
was
actors of our
fucking
generation, but he
embarrassing.
yeah.
I have
5,
no idea who this
4, 3, 2, 1.
Jack.
I got no idea. I'm going to just say something stupid. Steven Spielberg.
is. Yeah, I
Alden,
said
it would have been a better movie.
Steel Turd.
Jake.
Brookheimer.
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain.
Oz Luhrmann, Sam Jackson, Jackie
Jackie Chan, my
Come
man.
on.
No, this is Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. Yeah.
That is? I've never seen
Oh.
him. Oh my god, that's too funny.
How did he have explosions in it?
Did
if it
the
was
ambulance
COVID
turn
lockdown?
into a robot?
Did it go boom and then it goes bam and then everything it goes? Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
Does it? Explosions like every Michael Bay movie.
Yes. Many, many explosions.
And lens flares.
All right. So at the end of round 3, we have Alden with 8, Jake with 11, Jack with 13. Nick and the audience are both tied with 19.5 points.
I'm gonna
We're
win
gonna
this.
do a
So
tiebreaker.
I've got to come up with a way of having a tiebreaker. I'm trying to see if I had any questions that I got cut.
You should always have a numerically based tiebreaker and do it closest to the true
So
answer.
rock, paper, scissors.
Wait. Who's the winner, or who's tied for the winner?
Nick and audience.
Nick.
Okay, so I'll do something that the bar trivia that I go to sometimes does, which is the tiebreaker is how much money did a film make that was referenced earlier in the quiz. So the tiebreaker question is, how much did the movie Ambulance gross at the box office?
We're gonna have to wait a few seconds for
The audience.
the
to
audience.
write in. Yeah, that's fair.
answers to come start coming in.
Mm.
All right, let's see what Nick's got before they start answering.
19.
All right,
That's generous, Nick.
got 2.6. We got
Yeah.
negative 10. We got 8 million and 12 million.
All
No
right.
one, yeah, no one even thought
I mean,
more
it's-
than 20.
So it's
So-
the gross, right? Not what it nets. So it's got to be a positive number, right?
Jack
Yeah.
is on the right track here.
So if it was
Nick
a dog,
is
I'm gonna say it's 400,000 for a dog.
Nick is what
Ambulance-
thing?
Ambulance grossed $52.3 million, which
Wow.
means that Nick wins.
Gross. Yeah.
Dad
I beat the whole audience.
Wow.
brother. Well, at least the audience didn't win this time, but sadly, Nick went right back to winning, which is
Yeah. Nick beat the whole audience off. So
yeah.
what do you do?
All right, Jack. We're now in our topic of whining philosophical, spelled as in we're drinking wine.
You're philosophical, yeah.
So first of all,
Yeah.
we haven't even brought up the title of your company or organization, Male Friendly Media. So can you give us a description on what you do and what the origins of that were?
I just write stuff and try to be a presence in the media wherever I can get something published. It's pretty easy to get things published on Substack and Medium, for instance.
Mhm.
It's easy to get things published on YouTube. So I mean, I made my living as a freelance writer for a little while. It's a tough gig. I've written 3 books. I wrote some op-ed pieces, back in the day when you get $50 for an op-ed piece. It's just where I have put all of my communications, which are all in one way or another designed to be around helping to convey a male-friendly point of view on the social issues of men and boys and on gender politics in general.
Nice. Okay. And what kind of reaction have you gotten to the site? As we were discussing a little earlier, like my initial reaction to reading some of it was like a little bit of an attack, and like thinking, I don't know, less of myself. So like what has been the reaction to your articles and things like that?
Well, first of all, I am a basket case when it comes to social media. I don't even like it.
As are we.
I don't do it very well, and I don't like marketing in general very well.
Yeah, I
So,
feel you.
I mean, I am hardly a big presence in media. So, what's the reaction been? The reaction has been, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to check it out sometime." But Jake, I really want to know, did you feel personally attacked by the stuff on my site? That I
No,
was
not
attacking.
not personally attacked. No, it was more, I just felt things bubbling up in me. I didn't feel attacked at all, actually. I felt more just like, I don't want to feel any of the stuff that I'm feeling. Why is this like, let's just move on and not continue to read this.
Well, I mean, so could we talk about why you didn't want to read this? Why you didn't like what was bubbling up?
For similar reasons that I had spoken about before. Like I have a pretty stinking great life, and I don't think that I have any place to say that like I've been treated poorly or things are against me or anything like that. And I tend to look down on people who do that, which probably isn't great for me, but yeah. So
how about, I have a pretty great life too. How about reading what's happening to a lot of other men who don't have your good fortune?
I could see how that would be far more useful for me to advocate for them in that way. That would make more sense to me than applying it directly to myself most of the time.
And knowing that there's men in very different situations all over the place. I think a lot of what we try to do on the channel is like speak to principles and broad strokes and things like that, and not just our own personal. Of course, we have our own biases and our own personal lives influence, like where how we see things. And I read on the summary on your website when you were talking about each book that you were publishing or trying to publish, and the feedback and like the response that you were getting. And a lot of the times it was something along the lines of like, you make a lot of good points, but we don't want to rock the boat by publishing this kind of thing. Like, that's troubling to me. Like, if you are not able to even have your say and like make your case because you're like, oh, we're afraid that the pushback on this and the backlash and the optics of this is not going to be good for the company or good for the whatever, culturally good. That is a red flag to me in general. If you can't talk about something, I find that to be more dangerous than a lot of the time the topic that, is trying to be culturally sort of like planting its flag and defending, a thing. And this is where the pendulum goes too far. And this makes a lot of room for, the same problem to then happen to a different group of people or whatever. And again, we try as libertarians, we often are very principle oriented, and we try to work in a way that prevents things from happening where it's just like this backlash, like this like red blue swing where it's just like a pendulum swing and nothing happens, or like a male to female power struggle thing where it's like, well, now we're going to do what are we in motion to create a power struggle against men? You're like, that's not equal, that's not correct. And so in that way, just speaking more to the broad strokes of it, I see a lot of your point and your struggle. And I think just the publishing of the book mission was an interesting sort of meta insight there.
Thank you. Yeah, that was pretty tough to deal with. For people who don't know what we're talking about here, can I take a minute to explain?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the first book I wrote was a book called Goodwill Toward Men, and it was a book of interviews with 22 women, most of whom identified themselves as feminists. This was back in 1993 that I did the interviews. The book was published in February of '94. These were true feminists who were interested in the missing half of the discussion about what gender equality needs to look like, keeping in mind what it should look like or what it needs to be for men and boys. As the book got published, it got killed. The staff of my publisher decided they weren't going to publish it. They thought they called it reactionary. These are the female staff of St. Martin's Press. They called the book reactionary. And I said, well, have you read it? Because it's anything but reactionary. Mm-hmm. It's about moving forward so that men can also have equality. They called it reactionary because it required women to sort of give up some of their goodies, like men were required to give up some of their goodies. It wasn't reactionary. It was forward was forward going. It was just not the direction they wanted to go. So they
Yeah.
killed the book. That hurt a lot. That hurt a lot. So the second book I wrote was sort of a catharsis. I haven't told this story to you guys, right? Because I have told this story a lot lately. I'm not repeating myself here, right?
No.
So the second book I wrote was a catharsis about what happened to me with Goodwill Toward Men. And I I thought about what happened? How did this happen? Men are supposed to have all the power, and the men at St. Martin's Press had to capitulate to a bunch of low-level female staffers, young women who had just gotten out of Smith College or some school with a women's studies program, and they were willing to take up, a low-paying job so that they could, be part of the media and help to contribute to smashing the patriarchy and, that kind of stuff. So it came to me that the book I was going to write in response to what happened to Goodwill Toward Men was, if men have all the power, how come women make the rules?
Yeah.
And the men don't have all the power, and women don't make all the rules, but on gender issues, women make the rules. Women defined what sexism was to be only what happens to them. And they defined sexism as only something that men participate in. So when it comes to the world of relationships, male-female relationships, family relationships, work relationships, when I was a young man, if a fellow went to work and got his ass chewed out by his boss, he really did not call it a hostile work environment. That phrase did not exist until women got big time into paying jobs. What it was called for men was, yeah, my boss chewed out my ass. And you didn't,
It was a Tuesday. Yeah.
You didn't have some agency that was going to slap his wrists because he chewed you out. Work-life balance was not a phrase that even existed before women got there. So, yes, men have a lot of power, but not when it comes to nice relationships. Nice relationships are fashioned and designed and policed by women, largely for female advantage. I have a friend, he's deceased now, but he basically said etiquette is essentially the codification of female interests. Men will stand up when a woman enters the room. Why? Well, because he needs to show respect. So anyhow, the book, If Men Have All the Power, How Come Women Make the Rules, never got published by a publisher. I found an agent who took it on, said she could get it published. She could not. She was a veteran New York book agent, could not get it published. She sent me a note from an editor at Warner Books, a big deal editor, not just an editor, but I think he was executive vice president and senior editor or some fancy title. He was a powerful man, quote unquote, powerful man. Men have all the power. So he wrote my agent a note for a book called If Men Have All the Power, How Come Women Make the Rules. He wrote a note to my agent saying, I didn't particularly like the one-liner approach because I kept this book very pithy, because it was just sort of like me saying, God damn it, I am so pissed off that this happened. How could this be? So I was very wry and pithy. He said, I didn't particularly like the one-liner approach, but there is a lot of truth at the heart of this book. However, the amount of rancor this book would inspire among the women in-house would be enormous. I'll let one of my male competitors be the one to get pummeled. So here
Yeah.
he is.
So he proved your point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it goes to the point of what Alden was saying, that it's a terrible thing when you cannot talk about the problems you perceive in the world. And that connects me to the idea that you've all heard the word misogyny, and we're all afraid of being called misogynists because
You embrace it
if
here on
word
this
gets
show.
around that you don't like women, women are going to shun you and they're going to turn everybody in the company or against you because he's inappropriate and he's a woman hater, a misogynist. To me, the greatest cause of misogyny right now is the overuse of the word misogyny.
Do we
Because
even know the word, the inverse word? Do we all know?
Misandry.
Yeah, it is. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So of course Zane knows. Yeah.
Okay, so you've heard the word misandry.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a friend once before misandry was a word that was very well known. This was a male feminist friend of mine. He said, "Isn't it
they're the
interesting?"
worst.
Male feminist syndrome.
Huh?
I said
Sorry.
they're the worst.
Yeah, he was a piece of work. His wife treated him like shit, and he just took it. So he said to me one day, "Did you ever notice that there's a word for hating women, but there's no word for hating men?"
And it's more the
said,
thing that culturally we just aren't aware of it. We don't use it. We don't hear it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
back when he was talking, nobody even
Had
had
a
the word
dictionary.
misandry. Yeah.
Sorry.
I guess getting it into the dictionary, or at least getting it into conversation, is one of the small achievements of the men's movement. At least, we're getting people to at least recognize there is such a thing as man hating. But he said, "Isn't it interesting that there's a word for hating women and there is no word for hating men?" And I said, "Yeah, I have noticed that. Isn't that something?" He said, "Yeah, it just goes to prove that in this society, hating men is just not allowed. That's why there's no word for hating men. It's just not allowed." And I said, "Well, I came to a really different conclusion."
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And
I would not have gone that way.
He said, "Well, how
The
could you
logic.
possibly come to a different conclusion? It's obvious." He was a very, 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 very feminist, male feminist, and they really can be the worst.
Interesting.
He said, "How could you have a different conclusion?" I said, "Well, what's the word for crossing the street at an intersection with the green light?" He said, "There's no word for that. It's just called crossing the street." And I said, "So maybe the reason there is no word for man hating is that it's just perfectly fine, like crossing the street with the green light."
That's an amazing analogy. That's hilarious.
It's actually
And
pretty-
he had no response other than to say, "Oh, you're a," I don't know what he called me, but he dismissed me as, as a troglodyte, a male
Yeah.
chauvinist pig. That was a big phrase back in the day.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a very bad thing that men are not allowed to speak what they really believe and feel, even while we are being told that we never really express our emotions. We never express our feelings. We never talk about how we really feel. But when you do, oh my God, if it's anything negative, even a little bit negative about a woman, oh my God, do you know he's a misogynist?
Well,
And,
this creates like
I'm
the
so-
cultural. Oh, go ahead, Zane.
I'm glad you brought this up because I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but I read an article once that said that when couples go to couples therapy, men often feel like they're outgunned by their partner because they don't have as good of an ability to articulate how they're feeling. Like from their perspective, it seems like the woman can like explain perfectly how she's feeling, and then the man, even though he has feelings, cannot articulate them, and then that leads to the therapist taking the woman's side on everything, and it makes men not want to go to therapy with their spouse or talk about it at all.
Yes, you are very right. And there is a significant degree of anti-male bias in the culture at large. You know, when George Floyd was killed by Officer Chauvin, we all embarked on a campaign of examination of this idea of implicit bias. And the implicit bias that we were most concerned about in the aftermath of a death of a black man was we were concerned about implicit bias against black people. Recent research has shown that the worst implicit bias is not according to race. It's not against black people, although there is implicit bias against black people. But the worst implicit bias is not against, it's not about race, it's not against blacks, it's certainly not against women. The worst implicit bias of all is against all of us. And it's not just because we're white, men, it's just because we're men. And black men really get a double whammy. They're no good because they're black, and they're no good because they're male. So they get a double whammy. So I have a lot of sympathy for them. I was a parole and probation agent in central Baltimore, and those guys are having a really hard time, and nobody's cutting them a break. It's really ugly.
Wow.
It's primarily, I think, about gender for them.
I mean, you look at, if you're talking culturally, right? And I think this point, we haven't mentioned it here, but it's been brought up in our circles before. But you look at, like, you know, network television sitcoms. You've always got, you know, the wife portrayed in that as, you know, as kind of the boss of the house. And then you've got kind of the goofy male, you know, the goofy husband there who, you know, screws everything up. And, you know, how many times is that trope over and over and over again, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, think of the purpose that phenomenon serves. Who benefits from repeating over and over and over again these bigoted, sometimes hateful, certainly ridiculing and shaming ideas toward men by the culture generally, and often at the hands of a woman, you know, always being smarter than the man and sort of snickering and putting him down? Who does that benefit?
The CIA.
Who? The CIA? Yeah, okay.
Well,
Maybe.
no, I honestly think that it does, because
Yeah.
a big part of what these ideas do ultimately is, as you said, they break up families. And when families break up, it's the government that comes in to fill the role that the husband should have been doing.
Zane's
but
on my
can't
side
get
on this.
kicked out.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, look.
So the CIA actually does benefit.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe
The deep
it's
state.
true. Maybe the CIA and maybe the KGB is behind it, and all the CIA, they're all double agents. Sure. Maybe this is a plot by Russia to dissolve and corrode American families.
And you mentioned,
I
like,
don't
Hollywood.
think so. I think it's much more direct. It's very much the mirror image of all of the stereotypes we held about women to keep them out of the male domain.
Right.
All of these stereotypes about what doofuses men are stereotypes designed specifically to keep men out of the convention center where the big red heart is that the women so much benefit from and enjoy being near.
Well, we have a...
That's really what's going on. Women are no more interested in letting us into their domain than we were interested in letting them into our domain. Problem is, it's happened for women. We've done a pretty good job of taking responsibility, confronting our biases,
and making concessions.
Making concessions to try to be fair, because we realized, we found out, we learned, sometimes at the point of a gun, that all of this idea that women are no good in business is a huge waste of female talent. And what's going on now in the world of relationships, it's a huge waste of male talent, because there are very few kids in this country who are getting too much good parenting.
Yeah, that feels right, unfortunately.
And there are a lot of women who cannot restrain themselves from saying, well, I'm the mother. And there are women who will be honest with you if you can get them to not be around any of their girlfriends who are going to be mad at them for saying this. But there are women who will be honest with you and say, yeah, I want my husband to be more involved around the house, and I'll give him a hard time if he doesn't scrub enough toilets. But I really don't want him to be so involved around the house that he's the equal to me, because I don't want my kids running into the house after they've skinned their knee and running right past me and going, "Daddy!" They'll be honest about that. And it's not because they're bad that they want the kid to run to them. It's because they're good and they want to love their kids. It's only bad when they want to keep it for themselves. And that's a lot of what's happening. And there is a big backlash against men trying for equality in the convention center, the relationship center around the Big Red Heart. It's a big waste of male talent. You know how women will often say, if women ran the world, if women were in charge of governments and ran international relations, there wouldn't be any wars. And I say, okay, maybe not. But I'll tell you what, I'll take the other half of that bet, because I will bet that kids would be a lot healthier and happier these days. We wouldn't have so many kids committing suicide and being lost in their quest for likes and being influenced by stupid influencers if we put men in charge of raising the kids. Because we really have a very grave deficit of positive male values in our culture right now. Male values are just sort of like old-fashioned. They're boring, they're stupid, they're ignorant, they're clueless. Who needs it? And it sort of goes to the kinds of values that Jake is talking about. Just living a principled life. Honor is a very big thing among men. And that's a good thing, that honor is a good thing about
Honor and respect,
among men.
yeah.
And not having that be readily available to our children as they're growing up in abundance weakens them, hurts them, makes them less resilient, makes them less positive. And for whose benefit? For the benefit of people who have nothing else going on in their lives other than, I'm the mother. That's all they do is, I'm the mother. They're the mother. And there are a lot of mothers who do not want men to have equality in their space. And we have to be able to talk about this, fellas. We have to be able to say, in a calm, nice, not too nice, you don't go out of your way to be nice, but you be as nice as you can, tell them the truth. Look, you might not like this, but you really are being selfish and self-involved by keeping your husband out of your CEO suite in your family, keeping him lesser than you. You're being selfish not just to him, you're being selfish to your kids, because your kids need their fathers. The scientific validation for that is almost absolute these days.
Yeah, no,
It used to be regarded as, who needs fathers, who needs men? I remember that when divorces used to happen in the 50s, 60s, and I guess into the early 70s, men who were really close to their kids, who were going through a divorce, would often hear from their lawyers, the best thing you can do for your kids, if you really love your kids, is just walk away. Do not put them through a fight. That's how little fatherhood was respected back in the day. And we're getting over that, but as we get over that, the backlash pushes back against that. How do they push back against us? The number one worst stereotype of all about men is how violent we are. Do you know how much money the federal government gives for the Violence Against the Women Act?
$100 bajillion.
$1 billion a year. $1 billion a year.
With a B?
Someone call Elon Musk. Let's get that slashed.
Yeah, damn.
$1 billion. Now, look, I don't have a problem with doing what we can do to stop women from being beaten up in their homes, as long as we are also doing what we can do to keep men from being beaten up in their homes. because the science
That's a lot of
shows
money.
that it's about a 50-50 proposition in terms of who starts the slapping and the punching and the kicking and the throwing things.
Right.
Now, men, just by virtue of physics, are more likely to do harm to a woman than she is to a man. But she's not going to stand there and say, put up your dukes and fight. She's going to attack when he's asleep or when he's not paying attention or when he's been drinking or when he's sick. Men do get hurt by women. And those people who
That's
say,
what
well,
some
how's
folks point. That's what I was wondering.
how's a little woman going to hurt a big, strong man? The answer is, well, apparently you never watched the NBA, the WNBA. You never watched the WNBA. There are some
You're
very
right, I
large
never
women out
watched it.
there.
Yeah. What a true statement. Sorry.
Well, you could even see it on YouTube just by, by accident.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There are some very big women out there, and women can hurt you. And even if it's not to be, get a broken nose, just imagine never being able to sit on your sofa and watch television or read the newspaper without having to worry that she could just walk up behind you and whack you, with a who knows what, with her shoe.
Trying.
Well, it's the violence in general that you were speaking to. And so the way that I kind of see this is like, if we're looking at men as violent, but like when you look at women instigating violence, then okay, so is that like a masculine trait that you're then employing? And if that's the case, then men are actually, in a lot of cases, not all, I'm not speaking to, but able to dole out violence and not. This is like the, this is like the original, like the meek shall inherit the earth kind of thing. Like apparently like the definition of that is more like someone not who is weak, but someone who has strength, but does not wield it, like someone who keeps their sword sheathed, but that can do harm kind of a thing. And it's actually kind of a masculine trait. And so I'm actually seeing a lot of women behaving in a more masculine way, if we look at it in like sort of like the sacred masculine or whatever, like in terms of like just traits, and that's just interesting to be like, to see women advocating for women, but then acting in a more masculine, traditionally what they're saying is a more masculine trait kind of a way. Just feels like a strange irony, but.
So we are over time, y'all, by a little bit, and we've got a meeting here in a few minutes.
Right.
So we're going to, Jack, man,
I didn't realize, yeah.
I really appreciate everything that you've talked about on the show. It is one of our more unique shows. We've never had a show like this before. So
this is my very number one most unique show. This has really been fun.
Awesome.
You got a great thing going here.
Well,
Can I say one closing thought? I didn't realize we were over time, but like one sentence thought, basically. Yeah. I like to think of men and women not as like a more or less, but like two parts that make a whole. Like, I think that we each have different, this is what I was ramping up to, is that we each have different traits, we have different qualities. And I think it's good to think of ourselves as like, I was born differently, you were born differently, no one chose it, but we kind of have these different like traits and roles and strengths and weaknesses. And when you're parents, I think that it's good to each demonstrate the best qualities of each strengths, and that when you are a united front and you're on the same team and you communicate well and you're delegating and you're leading by example, and then I think that's the best thing that you can do for your kids, is to be each your own best, and together you're like greater than the sum of the parts kind of whole. But
yes, it's synergy. It's synergy. When you respect the woman that you're with and she respects you, there is synergy. Right now, men respect women a whole lot more than women respect men, and we gotta call them out on that and not allow it. It's really insulting and demeaning and wasteful.
No, that's fair to say. I think it's just the pursuit of truly more just in the sense of equality, which just to remind back to like the origins of feminism is what they said that was about, and just to redirect back to equality as opposed to just a giant pendulum swing kind of a thing. But
you said it was one sentence.
All of just commas forever. All
right, we're still going to play our Drunkard of the Week. We're going to do that right now, and then we're going to watch 2 funny clips, and then we're going to get out of here. So,
all right.
I am not fucking drunk.
Well, 19th or blue.
Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball.
This is everything about it's a clam. I love it.
I gotta be honest with you, I feel like I'm a little bit too drunk to stand up.
On Wiedersehen, asshole.
I'm drunk right now.
All right, y'all. Welcome to our drunkard of the week. This week, it's a dual drunkard, a hero and a villain. So enjoy.
Duel or duel? Like two or battle?
Dan Crenshaw cannot be a congressman again. You just can't. It's just too insulting.
Why is it that Republican states tend to have the least sincere Republican? Dan Crenshaw, apparently still a member of Congress.
And the next time Dan Crenshaw stands up and says, but you don't understand the threat, shut up, Dan Crenshaw. Just about had it with you.
Neocon Congressman Dan Crenshaw, Nikki Haley of Texas.
The single most left-wing member of Congress I've ever met personally is a Republican from this area who has no interest in the United States whatsoever and does not even pretend. I'm not going to name names. Yeah, it's Dan Crenshaw, the most liberal, most left-wing person I've ever met.
And so they're easily bullshitted by the posturing jackasses in Washington.
That's why Dan Crenshaw has a job.
You, Dan Crenshaw, you're the one whose own children languished and died while you focused on the neighbor's kids. That person is an enemy of everything that you voted for.
We want to be free to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
We want to get loaded.
Yeah.
And we want to have a good time.
Our hero of the week is Tucker Carlson, and our clown of the week is Dan Crenshaw. For, let's be real. It wasn't a real threat. It was just he's saying he wanted to kill him. Like, just passing comment. I've said similar words a million times about different people, and I wouldn't actually.
Probably about me.
Including the three of us.
Including Also, as soon as Tucker saw it, Tucker said, "Why don't you come on the show and we'll talk for a little bit?"
Yeah, and then he cut that video together and put it out there.
Yeah, which I thought was hilarious. So there's our drunkard of the week.
Nice.
And yeah, we're gonna go directly into a couple funny things. One of which was a drunkard nomination, but it was second place and needed to be in the funny section. So hang on one second. And there we go. This is Kamala Harris answering questions about the LA fires.
Oh, God.
Your mind, when you see this, you're here, you're now seeing it up close.
It's not only seeing it, Alex, you can smell it. You feel it, right? So it's seeing it with our eyes, and many people have seen it. You all are covering it. But to literally be on the ground here, you can smell the smoke that was here. You can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment. You can feel the energy of all of the folks who are still here on the ground.
What goes through your mind when you see that?
Can y'all imagine 4 years of her presidency?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we dodged a bullet there.
How freaking, it would have been media gold, but that would have been exhausting.
I saw that video and was like, that had to be nominated.
You were 100% correct. All right. Our final funny of the night is a comedy sketch from Dropout TV, and it's a fictional message from the CEO of GoFundMe.
America. My name is Dan Spoon. I'm the CEO of GoFundMe, a personal crowdfunding website that gives you the tools you need to achieve your dreams. Honeymoons, dream vacations, the world was your oyster. That vision of the company vanished almost immediately as we instead became an unwilling linchpin of the American healthcare system.
Do you want us to keep rolling? Are you okay? Do you need a minute?
I run a website that hosts popularity contests where if you lose, you die. Would you be doing all right?
I feel like I have sharp nails in my body. Is that normal? Do I need a GoFundMe? Look, ultimately,
I'm not even saying we do anything as extreme as single payer healthcare. I'm just saying, what if we had something along the lines of like one giant GoFundMe every year that would just pay for all the people who got sick or hurt that year?
Well, that's single payer healthcare.
Our new online newsletter, Sickness is Storytelling, How to Make Your Cancer More Marketable, will give you tips and tricks to have your life's greatest misfortune go viral. I can't do this anymore. Hello, America.
I never thought of this.
Dude, I hadn't thought about it either, but I thought that was freaking hilarious that GoFundMe is basically just how people pay for medical problems now, rather than what it was
for the
designed
government
to
to stop payment from getting to truckers.
Dude, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, they shut it down from the truckers, and you got to go to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in to episode number 114. Jack, where can people find you? What can they follow?
Malefriendlymedia.com, and there's nothing to follow. It's just some stuff to read.
Love it. People love to read. Our audience loves to read. I know a couple of these guys down here like to read as well. So
I don't know how to read.
I got videos for you.
Perfect.
I don't even.
Perfect. Yeah,
there we go.
The symbol for a Phillips head bit, apparently. So,
all right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for coming, tuning in to the show. We'll see you next week on More Liberty Libations. Peace.
Crew and